Hello everyone. The focus of my news media analysis was a study of basketball-related injuries in adolescents. So the formal title of the study was Basketball-Related Injuries in School-Aged Children and Adolescents in 1997 to 2007. The study was published in the Journal of Pediatrics and followed boys and girls who were involved in basketball and under the age of 20. The objective of the study was to determine national patterns of basketball-related injuries treated in ERs all across the United States. So here I thought I'd give you guys a little overview of what the study was. The study took place over the course of 11 years. And researchers used a technique called retrospective analysis, which is basically the examination of existing data from events that have already occurred. The data was collected by, and this is a mouthful, the National Electronic Injury Surveillance System of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. Say that 3 times fast. Over 4 million participants were involved, and the most common injury that occurred was a sprain or strain, which made up 38% of the results. Of that 38%, 23.8% were ankle sprains. However, perhaps the most important finding was that TBIs, or traumatic brain injuries, were on the rise, and they increased nearly 70% over the course of the study. So when reading these news media stories that reported on this study, I found a few things in common. The author's use of headlines, statistics, and vocabulary. All of these components make for a great story. However, the accuracy in which these tactics were used was my focus. So let's begin with the headline. The purpose of a good headline is to pull readers in and to serve as an indication of what lies ahead. The study's title did a very good job at identifying the who, what, and when, which is a lot of information for one sentence. Nancy Shute of U.S. News & World Report entitled her article, Basketball Injuries, 5 Ways to Keep Kids Safe. It appears Shute's article is taking a preventative stance on the issue rather than reporting the findings. Bill Hendricks of WebMD Health News entitled his article, Basketball Injuries Land Many Kids in ER. Hendricks' headline could be perceived as both an accurate and misleading description. However, the major issue is its vagueness. According to this headline, the article could be about a local basketball team who sustained head injuries and went to the ER, when in fact it's actually summarizing a scientific study. And lastly, Steven Reinberg of Businessweek entitled his article, More Kids Who Play Basketball Suffering Head Injuries. This is a terrible headline, and is very awkwardly written. It seems to be suggesting that there's this epidemic of basketball playing kids whose heads are being injured, rather than actually summarizing a scientific study. The next step is the use of statistics. Statistics have the ability to draw people in because these are the points that readers are ultimately going to take away from the article and pass on to others. This study was filled with a plethora of statistics. So I broke it down into how each article used these statistics. In Nancy Shute's article, there were a few statistics about fractures and sprains. However, the majority of the article was related to the 70% TBI increase. Bill Hendricks' article began with the 70% TBI increase, but ultimately it served as a really good overview of the study. And Steve Reinberg's article began with the 70% TBI increase and was accompanied by a few strategically placed statistics that back the rest of his points that he was making. A very, very good example of framing. But ultimately, what gives the article's life is word choice. Nancy Shute used very descriptive words and phrases, like most popular, no doubt do, permanent brain damage, wake-up call, and most devastating, to convey her message in her article. Bill Hendricks used a different technique, mini headlines, to separate the examples he took from the study. Basketball injuries should be a major concern. Traumatic brain injuries on the rise. No symptoms of concussion and TBIs. And lastly, Steven Reinberg used various quotes from an interview conducted with the author of the study and presented them in ways that complemented the points he was trying to make. TBIs can affect their health, memory, learning, and ultimately their survival. The problem of concussions is one that is plaguing all children's team sports. A common theme amongst all three news articles was their focus on TBIs. But why? I came up with 3 fairly good points that I think summarize it. 1, it's a very eye-catching topic that can easily evoke emotion, especially when you're talking about children and traumatic brain injuries. Number 2, it's the largest statistic in the study, so it's the one that's going to stick with you the most. And 3, it's very relatable, especially nowadays with the war going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. We hear about it a lot on the news, and even in our own backyard with Gabby Giffords being shot in the head. So for my closing statement, it's always interesting to see how one study can be portrayed by so many different people in so many different ways, and I guess it's a good testament to our media and the way that we're allowed to have our views and how we're able to portray information and give information to people in different outlets, news media, print media, blogs like we're learning in class. But I think the main focus should be that it's important for the public to be able to get real news rather than being fed an overanalyzed version disguised as the news. And I think that's what a lot of people need to work on nowadays. So thank you for your time.